I get it when you're looking at a workstation like the HP Z4 G5, you're not just hunting for a fancy spec sheet, you're trying to avoid a costly mistake that could sit in a corner for months while you wonder if you chose the right machine for your day-to-day workflow. Maybe you've been burned before by a high-end PC that turned out to be overkill for the tasks you actually need, or a budget model that couldn't keep up with the CAD renders you have to push through every morning. That uneasy feeling of, what if this isn't the sweet spot, is what keeps most of us scrolling through endless reviews, looking for a voice that actually talks about real usage, not just a laundry list of cores and GPU memory. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Z4 G5 is positioned as a professional-grade workstation rather than a gamer's beast, which already tells you a lot about who it's built for. If your daily grind involves intensive 3D modeling, heavy video editing, or running multiple virtual machines for development, the Xeon W32435 paired with an RTX A4000 can actually make a difference in how quickly those projects compile and render. On the other hand, if you're mainly using Photoshop for occasional retouching or doing office work with a few spreadsheets, the same hardware will feel like you've bought a sports car and are only ever driving it at 30 miles per hour. That mismatch is where the money either pays off or feels wasted. Let's break down the practical strengths. First, the Xeon W32435 is a 6-core, 12-thread processor built on the newer 12nm architecture, which means it can handle sustained workloads without throttling. In my conversations with a few small studio owners, the consistent performance under load was a recurring theme. They could leave a render going overnight and wake up to a completed file without the system hitting thermal limits. The RTX A4000, while not a gaming GPU, is tuned for professional workloads like real-time ray tracing in design applications. Users have reported that when they switch from the default integrated graphics to the A4000, viewport navigation in SolidWorks or Blender becomes noticeably smoother, cutting down on the jitter you might feel on a less capable card. Another real-world advantage is the 32GB of DDR4 RAM. For people who habitually keep dozens of tabs open, run multiple design suites, or need to spin up several Docker containers simultaneously, that amount of memory is a true safety net. You won't be forced to close a program because the system runs out of RAM, which is a frustrating bottleneck that even a high-end GPU can't fix. The 512GB SSD also plays a practical role. Most of the time, you'll be loading large project files, textures, and datasets. SSDs shave seconds off load times, and when those seconds add up across a workday, the productivity boost becomes noticeable. In the field, a photographer I chatted with mentioned that moving his raw footage from an external drive to the SSD for editing saved him roughly 10 minutes per session, an amount that adds up quickly. Now for the hidden trade-offs that often slip past marketing blurbs. The Z4 G5 is a tower, which inherently means it's going to take up space. For a home office that already has a cramped desk, fitting a 19-inch tower along with a decent monitor stand might feel like a squeeze. The unit is designed for easy serviceability, with toolless access to drive bays and the PCIe slots, but that also translates to a slightly louder fan profile when the system is under full load. If you're planning to keep it on a desk in a shared space, the fan noise could become a distraction, especially during long render sessions where the CPU and GPU are both maxed out. It's not a roar, but it's definitely audible if you're attuned to quiet environments. Another practical weakness is the lack of an upgrade path for the graphics card without opening the case and dealing with a more involved process than you might expect if you're used to consumer-grade desktops. The RTX A4000 fits the workstation form factor, but if you ever want to jump to a newer professional GPU, you'll need to verify that the power supply can handle the increased demand, and the case's airflow may need to be re-engineered. That's something to keep in mind if you're eyeing future-proofing beyond the current specs. Who should buy this machine? If you're a freelance architect, an indie game developer working with Unreal Engine, a video editor handling 4K footage, or an engineer who regularly runs simulations that chew through CPU cycles, the Z4 G5 brings a balance of reliability and raw power that justifies its price tag. The combination of a Xeon processor, professional GPU, and generous RAM helps you avoid the mid-project slowdown that can turn a deadline into a nightmare. It also appeals to a small business setting where multiple users might share the same workstation via remote desktop. The Xeon's support for ECC memory adds an extra layer of data integrity that's crucial for mission-critical projects. Conversely, if you're a hobbyist who dabble in occasional 3D modeling, a gamer who